Are you experiencing a past life bleed through? Let me divulge exactly what that actually means. Gospel of Marie. So, for me, when I refer to a past life bleed through, it means that there are other timelines, past lives, of a very, very intense shadow experiences that you will be feeling in this life, right? Now, it's really, really clear. We all know this, that present moment is the only moment, right? So, anything to do with your future life, okay, hasn't yet happened. Anything to do with the past life already happened, just memory and ether. You know what I mean? But the actual, the only truth in what is really happening in the here and now is the present moment, right? So what's happening as we go through this transition from the old into the new, meaning the old timeline collapsing, transitioning into your new world, we are having to kind of like really get right on everything. Soul retrievals left, right, and center. Okay, and that means any shadow that has been left undealt with in past lives, any lessons that have been left unlearned, call it karma, whatever you want to call it, it's all going to be happening in this timeline. So so you're actually going to be bleeding through the energy and the memory of those experiences in this lifetime. So what will happen in your everyday life, you will have similar experiences, or rather similar stories that will trigger that same shadow emotion, right? And then you're going to be feeling it here. So what does that look like in your life? For example, you might have a life situation pop up where you have an argument with a friend and you react like to the point where it's actually an overreaction to what's gone down. So when something is kind of imbalanced, so here's the situation, here's the trigger, but then there's the reaction, that means that you pull in that frequency, that energy, that emotion from another timeline, another past life. But we got to get right. We got to do the grand clear up, right? So of course, you're just going to have another story that's going to kind of rewrite the experience so you can pull that soul part back into oneness, into wholeness, because that's what we have to do before we pass into the next timeline. Now, Isis has always spoken about this. She basically has always said, and it's been written in scripture and everything, that for one to move to the new timeline, or for one to move into the new world, you have to forgive yourself and you have to forgive everyone and everything, right? So you've got to be light. You've got to be you've got to have completed all the assignments to be able to go to the next level. So that's why it's incredibly chaotic right now and very, very intense, because it feels like you're walking on a minefield, because it's trigger, 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 trigger. So for me, I'm going to use myself as an example to do with this bleed through past life thing. I believe that when you go through your shadow, okay, and you've worked, as we've done for years upon years upon years in this life, we go through the layers, right? And when we get to like the absolute base camp of your deepest wounding, I believe that sits in grief and sadness. I kind of feel that is like the heaviest nut in the gut that you arrive at when you know that you're right down there, because grief is very, very different to any other emotion that we can experience. It has you can't speed it up and you can't fast track it. So when you're in this experience of grief, what's happening now is there is a surrendering, because you can't speed it up, you can't clear it away. It's something that has to be allowed to have space to be able to move through in its own way. And that brings a lot of unconditional love for self, a lot of just a lot of love for you to allow that to move through, because this point of the game is about allowance, surrendering, and just being, and that is where the grief comes up, I think. So this past life bleed through, you will have many experiences like that, because as I say, they are just soul parts or soul fragments that are just left undealt with, and it's time for you to bring it here, because the party is here, present moment is here. There is nothing else except here, right? So once we embody that and we understand that, we are then going to see the bridge to the next world, and it's going to be completion, right? Now, just on that, we're in a very, very critical point of transition. I keep using the words transition because it's all about death. And the death walk, what I think we've been doing for quite some time, years, in fact. And now we're realizing that death has got layers. And, it's different from the years prior where you go through something really intense, you clear it, and then okay, on to the next. This isn't that. This is a very, very deep, immersive, yet expansive experience where the only key that is available to us, that should be available to you, is surrender and allowance of the transition to move through its process, right? So it's huge. It's really, really big. So give yourself a lot of love for where you are right now. Now, the next thing I just wanted to touch on, because this kind of comes to the present moment that you were the star of the show in this life. It's like, I believe that we don't actually give ourselves enough value and enough credit for who we are living in this lifetime. Do you know in 1,000 years' time, you're going to be channeling you? Do you know what I mean? No doubt. You're going to be sat there in 1,000 years or more, or even a few hundred years, and you're going to be sat there and you're going to be channeling the ancient one. Like, I'll be channeling Marie. Can you come through? Marie, do you have any wisdom for us? Do you know what I mean? I mean, like, what we channel our ancient selves back then in the medieval times, in the ancient times of Egypt or whatever. And like now, like, we have to give ourselves credit that, like, actually the ascended master, the one that knows, the ancient one, the one that's in full union is you in this lifetime, in this now moment, right? So a lot more credit has to be given to this ancient being who's come at this timeline, okay? At this moment in time, when the world is in absolute chaos, the tipping scales between Gaia moving from 3D to 5D, same with us, like, you came here for a very important reason, right? And this is the time. So question yourself with that. Who are you really? Like, who are you really? What's your truth? And, why did you come here at this time? What skills, what abilities, what mastery, what wisdom did you put your hand up for and say, hey, I can bring that to the earth, because they were like, listen, we're going to be going through some stuff on Gaia. Finally, we're going to tip the scales and this is what's going to happen. Who's up for it? We want our best players, right? You put your hand up. And then also to add to that, which I absolutely love, I might have mentioned it in other videos. I heard it and they said the universe, because this is a game, capital GAME, I've always called this experience a game. Learn how to play the game. That is why the Hermetic principles are there and other sacred laws to help us play the game, right? So it's like knowing when to lie down, knowing when to sprint, knowing when to die, knowing when to become alive again, whatever. It is actually a game, right? So we're here to play it. So the universe only puts their strongest players on the field when the time is right. You are that strongest player. That's why you're here. So let's give a bit more credit to you as a super being in a physical body. This is where it's at, right? And I'm going to share a little story, which I've done in other videos before, just to back this up. Quite some time ago, I was channeling. I went into a deep, deep journey with Merlin, actually. I ended up on the Glastonbury tour. And on the Glastonbury tour, it was ancient times, and I was dressed as a maiden. I had the whole basque going on and the hood, and I was wielding my magic, and I was making a magic ball at the time, and I was like really getting into it. And then all of a sudden, Merlin walks in, like it was in the middle of a film scene, and he was like clicking his fingers. Stop! What are you doing? And I was like, well, I'm wielding my magic, Merlin. I've created a very powerful magic ball here from my inner alchemy. This is what I'm doing. And he was just like, and the clothing? And I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. And he said, but like, you do know the same powerful soul that you were when you wore that clothing to who you are now. Where's your Nikes and your beanie and your hoodie? Because that's how I roll. I've got my Air Force Ones, my hoodie, my beanie, but I do all my pre-step stuff. Do you know what I mean? And he was like, what's wrong with doing that now? And I was like, well, it doesn't really look the part, does it? Do you know what I mean? And he was like, you are an ascended master walking. All of you are. You can wield that magic ball, whether you're in a basque and a dress or whether you're in your beanie and your trainers. So he brought me to this current timeline and he said, this is the timeline. This is the super being in physical form that needs to be acknowledged and valued, because this is where you're at. Hence why I went back and said in 1,000 years' time, you're going to be channeling yourself. Like now, like this person, this being, right? So this is it. And once we understand that, because the way I'm going to culminate this video is by us understanding that, we're going to have more of a understanding of the importance of what it is of sovereignty, of what it is to become whole, as above, so below, so within, so without. The only way that that's going to happen is when we do less work in the past life, because this is another thing. I say it's going to be the end of the video. One more thing. Past life work, I love. Past life work is very, very powerful, but I do not spend too much time back there. It does not matter if you know that you are Arthur or Martha, or whether you lived in a castle, or whether you were 4,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. It doesn't matter. Those are just details. If you go back to a past life, you just want to tap into the bones of it, understand whether it's full of grief, whether it's heartache, pain, whatever it might be, so you can get the shadow information, so you can understand the frequency of that, because it's all frequency and vibration, man. take that into this life to be able to process it enough. So you just want to skim off the top and get the bones of it, like I say. But when you go into the past life and you're basically spending too much time there because apparently you're married to this man or woman and you had a dog. Do you know what I mean? You also like knew how to do whatever. Do you know what I mean? You know how to do. You're still that being, but we don't need to go into the details of the story because it keeps you separate of. It creates more separation. So everything is like a cool folding pastry. Information from out in that realm, bring it in, fold it in. More information, bring it in, fold it in. So we keep doing this until this is whole in this life. If you keep being fragmented and going back there, and just getting too much into the details, even Mary Magdalene speaks about it. It's all about frequency. There is a book called The Magdalene Frequency, and she speaks about how we are all getting lost in the detail where we need to know, whether you're an incarnation of this being or that being, or whether, was she really married to Yeshua and all of these things. She said, it's just noise and distortion. She said, I am a frequency. I am not to be looked at as a person as such, because then we get stuck too out there. Everything is energy. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. So when we can work with the energy and frequency more, we become the masters that we know ourselves to be, right? So this is the thing. To be sovereign in this life means to become whole. To be whole means that you need to be balanced, with your divine masculine and divine feminine. And it all has to take its place. But if we keep leaving our posts to go and get more information, we spend more time in the past or the future, we're not here. And your journey is going to be incomplete and infinitely non-concluded. Yeah? So that's what I wanted to share with you. Like Merlin said, come into the timeline, come into this now moment, and remember all of that magic from all of those other places here. Any shadow, bring it back, transmute it, transform it here. Bring it home. This is why it's called the journey back to self, the journey back to oneness. So with that, I'm going to leave you with my rather large pearls of wisdom, and I will be doing a lot more videos. Now I'm back in the back cave, and we're going to be doing a lot of Sekhmet work coming up this. Yeah, she's been talking a lot, and I've just been waiting to get the videos out. So watch out for that. But other than that, good to be back, man. Thank you for watching. And if you dig the content, click subscribe. Definitely put your notifications on, because I will be doing live streams again. And I do hold the Temple Classroom, which is the last Thursday of every single month. So don't forget about that. It's a private classroom and obviously no cost. So you just turn up, come to Temple. This month's Temple will be with Sekhmet, but it will be a very, very powerful ceremony, and it will not be the recording will not, there will not be any recording. Sacred is secret, and that's what the ceremony is all about. So I won't be sharing that recording, but I require all Sekhmet soldiers to be accounted for and present, because we are now about to ramp it up from the orders of Sekhmet into getting more proactive with our energy and our power. And that's nothing to be scared of. It's everything you've ever wanted. So together we ride. But thank you again for watching, and I will see you soon. Peace.